Ryan grew up surrounded by praise that painted him as the smartest kid in the room. But no one knew the truth. While everyone around him was betting on his future, he was sinking into a quiet addiction, trapped in screens, distractions, and excuses that sounded clever only to him. And the worst part? He already sensed that all of it would come with a cost, one that, when it finally hit, wouldn't just ruin his grades. It would pull the ground out from under a boy who truly believed he was untouchable. And even with that internal warning, subtle but relentless, Ryan kept feeding the same story to himself. The story that talent protects you, that a sharp memory solves everything, that nothing bad could ever happen to someone so promising. He grew up inside a cushioned bubble. Teachers treated him like a future prodigy. Classmates asked him for answers, and his family talked about him as if he already had one foot in med school. It was easy to believe that fantasy. Too easy. The problem is that too much comfort blinds you. His teenage years brought what, for any other kid, would have been harmless distractions. Notifications buzzing in his pocket like a chemical trigger, short videos hijacking his attention, games offering the illusion of progress without any real responsibility. For Ryan, all of that became a hiding place. And the more he disappeared into pixels, the more he lost the chance to build anything in the real world. But no one noticed. No one pushed him. After all, he was the genius, and every genius, they said, figures it out in the end. The town he lived in, a typical American suburb, organized, predictable, borderline dull, worked like the perfect stage for this kind of self-deception. School hallways were packed with teens juggling assignments, sports, clubs, and family expectations. Some stood out for their discipline, others for their effort. Ryan? For none of that. He stood out for promises, promises that never made it from his mouth onto a page. Teachers started noticing the gap between his potential and his performance, but instead of calling him out, they tried motivating him with more praise. It was like spraying perfume on someone who needed a shower. It masked the smell, but it didn't fix the problem. And that's when the one person who didn't buy into the illusion showed up – Coach Miller. His reputation traveled through the hallways as a mix of respect and fear, a coach known for turning slackers into relentless workers and average students into disciplined athletes. He had no patience for excuses, no sympathy for comfort, and zero tolerance for wasted potential. Miller watched Ryan with a kind of attention that made him uneasy, an attention that didn't see the brilliant kid, but the emptiness behind him. That uneasiness turned into confrontation one random morning when the coach stopped him after class. "You've got way too much talent to be producing this little," Miller said without drama, like he was giving a diagnosis, and he was. Ryan let out a nervous laugh, trying to brush it off. "I'm good. I'll study later." Miller went silent for 3 long seconds, long enough to break through any defense. Later is where you're burying your life, and you know that. The words hit where it hurt, but Ryan did what he always did, pushed them away. But pushing wasn't working anymore. The state scholarship exam, the gateway for the top students in the region, was approaching fast. His friends were studying, reviewing, taking practice tests. He kept saying, "later." Later became tomorrow. Tomorrow became next week. And next week became nothing. Deep down, Ryan knew he was playing with fire. But he believed he was tough enough to not get burned. Except fire doesn't negotiate, and his life was about to prove that in the harshest way possible. Because whether he wanted it or not, the bill was coming due, and it was coming fast.
The state scholarship exam was, for most students, a ticket to a better future. For Ryan, it was just a minor hurdle, or at least that's what he told himself. He believed his quick mind would make up for any lack of preparation, that his memory would carry him through on improvisation alone, that his intelligence was some kind of insurance against reality. That fantasy evaporated the moment he opened the test. The questions looked like they'd been written in another language. The answers that once seemed obvious now demanded more than recall. They demanded preparation. Time was ticking, and Ryan felt something suffocating. He wasn't in control of anything in front of him. For the first time in his life, there was no shortcut. Hours later, he walked out of the room with trembling hands. In the hallway, he heard laughter, whispers, comments about the questions. His friends looked tired but confident. He felt drained and hollow. Waiting for the results took days, but the blow landed fast and without cushioning. Failure. Not only had he failed, all his friends passed, some with outstanding scores, others with full-ride scholarships. Ryan was the only one left behind. Suddenly, the intelligence that had once protected him like a fortress turned into a ridiculous mask. He couldn't stand his own reflection. He avoided eye contact at school, avoided conversations at home. He spent nights staring at the ceiling, chewing on his shame. And that's when life delivered its final strike. He ran into Coach Miller in the school parking lot. The coach looked at him with an expression that wasn't pity, it was diagnosis. So, the bill finally came due. Ryan swallowed hard. Part of him wanted to run, but he was tired of running. I need help, he murmured, dropping the prodigy act for the first time. Miller nodded, as if he'd been expecting this moment. Then come tomorrow, 6 a.m. Don't be late. Ryan assumed he'd be taken to the gym, the track, maybe the library. But the next morning, he discovered something that made no sense at all. Coach Miller was waiting for him at the school's archery range. Why archery? Ryan asked, genuinely confused. Because you can't cheat against the target, the coach replied. It shows exactly who you are. Miller handed him a simple, almost rustic bow. He lifted it, aimed, and released. The shot was embarrassing, so off course it nearly left the field entirely. See, Miller said, without raising his voice, you don't miss because you're weak. You miss because you look at everything except the target. The sentence hit Ryan like a slap he never saw coming. You want to fix that? The coach asked. Ryan nodded. Then here are your rules, Miller said, raising 4 fingers. Cut every distraction. Phone only for what's necessary. No excuses, nothing like later. Fixed routine. Wake up, train, study, rest, every single day. Daily practice. Effort beats talent when talent doesn't work. Ryan took a deep breath. For the first time in his life, it felt like he was facing something bigger than himself, bigger than his vanity, bigger than his intellectual laziness. Miller finished. The mind is a wild animal. If you don't train it, it turns on you. So the question is, are you going to take the reins or keep falling? And in that moment, Ryan made the hardest decision of his life, to let go of the illusion of being the naturally gifted kid and face the discomfort of building discipline from scratch. He had no idea that the days ahead would become the biggest clash between who he was and who he would need to become.
The first few days were brutal. Ryan thought the hardest part would be waking up early. He quickly learned that waking up was the easy part. Living without his escape valves was the real torture. The quiet of the early morning, with no notifications and no screens, felt like a giant mirror reflecting everything he'd been trying to avoid. Miller didn't go easy on him. Archery training demanded focus, breathing, posture, 3 things Ryan didn't have. Guided study sessions demanded consistency, review, repetition, everything he'd avoided for years. The physical workout served as a painful reminder of an uncomfortable truth. An undisciplined body reveals an undisciplined mind. Ryan felt anger at the coach, at the process, at himself. But he kept going. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't chasing a result, he was chasing character. One day, under an unforgiving sun, Ryan missed 3 shots in a row. He threw the bow on the ground, furious. "I'm not built for this," he shouted. Miller walked toward him slowly. "Exactly. You're not built for this. You become built for this." That simple, sharp sentence sliced something open inside Ryan. From that moment, progress stopped being linear and started being real. He learned to breathe before acting, to study before improvising, to train before demanding results. Archery became a metaphor for everything. Wherever his mind went, the arrow followed. Months later came the new big exam, every bit as important as the last, maybe even more. Ryan arrived early, no anxiety, no trembling hands. He didn't trust his intelligence anymore. He trusted the process. When he finished the test, he felt something almost unfamiliar: peace. The results came out 2 weeks later. First place. There was no burst of excitement, no over-the-top celebration. What he felt was something deeper: dignity. Years went by. Adult Ryan became a mentor to many young students, not because he was a genius, but because he had learned how to tame the wild horse inside his own mind. Whenever a student asked him what the secret was, he shared the final lesson Coach Miller had given him. A mind without direction is just noise. Once you take the reins, even silence becomes strength. And that's how Ryan stopped being wasted potential and became someone capable of shaping his own future one focused step at a time.